Hi, and welcome to AI in 2026. My name is Andrew Alker, and I'm a director in PwC's advisory practice. This episode is on building intelligent systems, how we go from turning AI from experiments into reliable business infrastructure. Today, I'm joined by Jahanzeb Azim, PwC Australia partner and national AI leader. Jay, thanks for joining me.
Pleasure.
Jay, you've been working in this space for a while now, and you know as well as anybody else how AI needs to build predictability and trust in outcomes for leaders. How should leaders start to think about building autonomous AI systems across the enterprise?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, Andrew, which one that keeps coming up more and more and more. I think the qualification of that question in itself is probably where leaders need to be considering. Like if you're asking yourself, where can I build AI into my organization, or which systems can I have in my organization? I think there's a fundamental step back that you need to take. It's not about which parts of the organization that you can build into. In 2026, I think the question is more fundamentally what kind of AI organization that we need to become. So it's not about importing systems into your organization, but fundamentally changing the fabric, or at least putting the question out there of what AI organization can we become. The other, I think, really important element to that question, or word within that question, is autonomous, right? So if you take agents, for example, AI agents, for example, leaders again in 2026 need to be asking themselves, what decisions are we allowing, or what actions are we allowing agents to take? If the answer to that question again in 26 is not much, I think you have to take a step back and think about how do we allow for that to happen at scale across the organization, not just one system in one function with one team on one platform, but it's a bigger question. It's a wider consideration than that.
And in your opinion, Jay, what's the gap there? What's the gap between what CEOs and boards are expecting out of AI and some of the practical steps that they're taking?
When you read about AI, the numbers are big, right? So expectations accordingly are high. $1.6 trillion into the economy, 30 to 40% of costs taken out, and so on. So rightly so, or boards and leaders are setting expectations with a high bar on them. However, often the capability of AI that they're activating, aka chatbots for the most part, do not allow you to achieve that level of outcome, right? So organizations are setting their eyes up here and then investing, in very, very basic sort of capabilities. You at least have to think autonomous, agentic to achieve some of those numbers. I think that's a clear gap. Scalability is the other one. Agentic capability to scale in production across the organization. I think the third one is trust. So trust and governance is being looked at again in a very small bubble. And there's a couple of other gaps, culture being one, fluency, literacy across the organization being another, death by 1,000 cuts. There's a few gaps there that aren't converting that promise into value.
Is there a time window that you predict for when these organizations need to jump on the bandwagon or miss the boat entirely?
I would say so. I think it's a very strong signal that there's a finite time window, and the finite time window I think is only relevant to the market you're in, on the industry that you're in. You can look at that finite time window from a few perspectives as well, right? So the obvious one is competition. Is there, whether it's your direct competition or net new entrants into the market because of that AI capability. Second aspect is potentially even more intrinsic. Like, so if you look at your team members, your employees within the organization, if you're not giving them the AI tools that they need at scale, would they stay? Would you be able to attract, the best talent out there? It's kind of like saying to anybody that, you can join our organization, but we don't use an office suite at the moment. We're still using paper kind of thing. You won't get top talent. The third one, I think, is just the efficiency of operations going forward. Whether, you're a B2B organization or a B2C, people are going to expect those efficiencies to be passed on, either in terms of speed or price or efficiency, onto the end customer.
What makes AI reliable enough for mission-critical use across the enterprise and not just isolated pilots?
I think any organization, first of all, asking that question is a big step forward, because that effectively means that you're building AI into mission-critical workflows. I think the most important part is what works in experimentation may or may not work when you put it in actual use and through the rigors of. So you have to think of AI, I think, in mission critical systems in sort of three ways. One is you have the infrastructure in place to allow you to measure and manage all aspects of operations. If the model starts to drift, for example, and is slowly going off and doing less than desirable things, you should be able to catch that, right? So your operations need to be solid. The other thing is mission critical systems. Often processes are built around mission critical systems, not the other way around. So when you talk about AI as a mission critical system, you need to have that almost seamlessly embedded into the way you work, right? So everybody's working with the system rather than around the system. And the third aspect of this is ownership. Ownership and accountability is at the heart of it. So who is taking ownership for either that system or series of systems or components of that system, I think has to be crystal.
The rate of change of AI seems to be increasing every day. How should organizations start to think about balancing leveraging the best of AI capability with operational stability?
Yeah, really interesting question. Again, front of mind for most organizations and leaders. I think one of the myths at the moment is that you sort of have to choose between the two. AI's capability, especially how fast it's been evolving, it's like a major jump every 3 months or so. You need to have your operational stability built into the system so you can take advantage of every single leap that comes through it. I think organizations that did the boring stuff already, which is put the governance, the trust, the technology, and etc., are actually having a better time balancing that those two in the right direction than others. But you really need to define what operational stability means for you and what capabilities of AI are you actually looking to balance against that.
Where do leaders often push either too fast or too slow to the draw?
The most common example that I've seen from a too fast perspective is AI is a silver bullet or it's not, right? So either AI is solving all our problems or it's not, right? So let's make a decision, we're not going to use it or use it. I think either one is a false alarm or a false hope, either way. I think your other question was, where do organizations sort of call time or stop really quickly? I think data governance is probably the biggest reason why. So when organizations think about, can we use AI within our organizations or not, they're often taking too far a step back to say, let's see all of our governance rules are in place and our security, privacy, and so on and so forth. What most organizations will find that a lot of the rigor that they've already put in to at least experiment with AI is good enough, right? So data privacy rules, security rules, sensitivity rules have been around for a long time, especially in regulated industries. So what you'll often find is you're closer to start experimenting with AI than you otherwise thought. A lot of organizations sort of say, stop, let's revisit this in 6 months, 12 months time, and that's time lost that is hard to gain in today's AI fast-paced world.
And for leaders and organizations that are at the earliest stages of the adoption curve for AI, what are some of the decisions or considerations they can start to think about now in terms of AI infrastructure instead of potentially figuring out too late?
Yeah, excellent question again. So I'd say hedge your choices of technology, like think in that direction rather than saying, let's pick one and stick with one. And most organizations have multiple technology platforms in there, right? So it should be an extension rather than net new. I think that's one aspect. They should think about that transition period where AI is scaling up. You still have your old ways of working, so it's almost like two worlds existing at the same time. You'll start to see some costs sort of go up, maybe beyond what you expected to happen. Build for that transition period, right? Don't expect to be in current state and future state all of a sudden. What does that transition period look like? I think also bring your stakeholders on a journey if you're about to use AI at scale. So your employees we talked about earlier, your board members, if there's regulators involved, and your customers as well, right? So it's rather than shying away from the topic, take it on. Like, how is your organization about to create value with AI? And the last one is, what's your ecosystem of partnerships that's going to make you successful?
Thanks for that, Jay. And thanks for joining us for this episode of AI in 2026 on building intelligent systems. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to my guest, Jahanzeb. We'll see you on the next episode.